Matthew Arnold. Up to the age of Dryden, people used to say, as a final argument, Aristotle has said so. In the Victorian age, it was said, Arnold has said so. His position as a critic remained supreme for about 50 years. The most outstanding critical works of Arnold are Essay on Criticism and Culture and Anarchy. He was widely read both in the ancients and the moderns, and he represented the classical resistance to degenerated romanticism of his age. His criticism falls into two broad divisions. First, the art of poetry, and second, the art of criticism. His views on poetry towards two aspects. Number one, he defines poetry in the first instance as serious representation of an excellent action. He says that poets should choose actions which are serious or magnificent and that please always and please all. So, actions that most powerfully appeal to those elementary feelings which are independent of time are the fittest subject of poetry. The highest modes are the ancient classics because they regarded the whole and not the parts. It reminds us of Aristotle, who believed that plot comes first and it is the soul of tragedy. He also has to say something about the style, especially the grand style. He says that the grand style ennobles poetry and life. Homer achieved the grand style by the rapidity of movement, plainness, and directness of language, nobility of nature, and lucidity of mind. The grand style is free from three things. First, lack of culture. Second, meanness of spirit. Third, mere pretension to knowledge. Sometimes the last two are also called Americanism and charlatanism. He adds that the essential character of a poem is judged by the total impression. It is the power of execution and not the profoundness of single thoughts which ultimately helps creating the total final impression. Secondly, Arnold has something to say about poetry in relation with life. He could not conceive of poetry as something apart from life. No less than 4 times he calls poetry a criticism of life under the conditions fixed for such a criticism by the laws of poetic beauty and of poetic truth. He explains criticism of life as the noble and profound application of ideas to life. Laws of poetic truth and poetic beauty are truth and seriousness of substance and matter, as well as felicity and perception of diction and manner. Poetry thus exists to make life richer and fuller by adding itself within minute to the question how to live. It has the power of forming, sustaining, and delighting us as nothing else can. It is therefore essentially moral in conforming to the highest ideals of truth, goodness, and beauty. He defines criticism as a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world, and thus to establish a current of fresh and true ideas. Thus, conceived criticism is a threefold activity. First, a personal culture. Second, a service to society. Third, a service to literature. According to Arnold, the critic must be disinterested in the sense that he should pursue only the ends of cultural perfection. Arnold's contribution in the field of criticism is his very famous touchstone theory. He accepts that the judgment of literature is a type, honored function of criticism. Then he suggests a touchstone method. It means to have always in mind lines and an expression of the great masters and to apply them as a touchstone to other poetry. For in poetry of the highest excellence, matter and substance possess truth and seriousness in an eminent degree. This demands of a critic's taste and long experience with the classics, which are fine literature. Arnold also refers to the function of critic as a promoter of culture. A critic is a man of culture concerned with cultural aspect of life. He must propagate a more aspect of social passion for doing good. In spite of his great contribution to literary criticism, there are some limitations of his theories. He seems to give too much power to the critic in his duty to society. The historical estimate, which he ignores, is also valuable in literary assessment. He also forgets the fact that literature and its judgments are intensely personal. He is blind to the potentialities of new life, new society, and new ideas of his time. He thought much of the ancients. However, he was a great critic and a lawmaker in his own days.